Hello and welcome to Through Africa. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamgbala, and today I'm joining you live from our studios here in Ankara, Turkey, to discuss two very important topics to the African continent. First, we'll talk about technology and how it can be used to foster education in our African countries. Then we'll move to Ghana, where we'll be talking about the elections, which is set to take place in December this year. So to talk more about digital literacy and technology and how it can be used to foster education in our countries, I'll be speaking with Mary Oyimbo, who is the co-founder of Workmate Technologies. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Missy. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let's start by talking about digital literacy and what it means. How would you define digital literacy in today's world?
Okay, so many people think digital literacy is just about knowing how to use a computer or a smartphone. But in today's world, it goes way beyond that. It includes having skills like ethical internet usage, data privacy, online safety, and critical thinking, and so many other skills. And then beyond that, it is about understanding how to navigate and leverage digital tools responsibly and being able to differentiate between reliable and unreliable information. So you don't just believe you would win 20 million naira because Donald Trump won the USA elections. It is funny to see people click on those links and expect to win that money. So you don't fall in that problem. You don't fall into that problem. You need to know what digital literacy is about. You need to understand digital literacy. So it is teaching you to evaluate and use digital tools responsibly. And then there are levels to it. It ranges from knowing how to use a smartphone to being able to navigate the internet, understanding online safety, and just being able to, and then the advanced part, being able to code. And then so far, digital literacy has seen remarkable growth in Africa since 2020. The pandemic was devastating in many aspects, but it also pushed so many people to acquire basic digital skills out of necessity. People had to learn. For example, in Nigeria, schools, businesses, and even professional organizations had to shift online almost overnight, and it compelled people to adapt quickly. And the result was a surge in the adoption of digital tools. So people had to learn to communicate, collaborate, and access services online. And this led to a more digitally aware population. And even now, government, individuals, and NGOs are still doing digital literacy programs to empower individuals, especially youth and students, to build skills and navigate the digital world. So digital literacy is important to build the future of Africa we want to see.
Okay, I would just like us to, you just spoke about students and the youth. We know that this category of people are very important for every society. Now let's talk about how crucial it is for students to learn how to use computers, how to effectively use technology. How crucial it is.
Okay, so digital literacy is important for everyone, but for students now, digital literacy helps students to tap into opportunities to overcome regional challenges and also contribute to socio-economic transformation. Africa, for example, has one of the youngest populations globally, with over 70% of our population being under the age of 30. So digital literacy can unlock job opportunities for this demographic. The rise of tech hubs and tech programs and the popular Silicon Savannah in Kenya shows how young Africans through digital skills can start businesses, develop applications, and enter high-demand fields like coding. So secondly, students face barriers of traditional education resources, and digital literacy helps to bridge that gap. Through digital literacy, students can access global knowledge and resources, from online courses to e-libraries to getting scholarships or fellowship opportunities to study abroad, and then to even getting world-class certifications like the PMP. So digital literacy has a way of empowering students to learn interdependency and gain skills that might not be readily available in their local education system. It also allows you to innovate and become entrepreneurs. With platforms in Nigeria like Flutterwave, InterSwitch, OPay, young people can easily do business with this platform. And then the last thing I would like to talk about is the ability to advocate for social change. So you can easily advocate for any cause you believe in using social media. And social media and digital platforms have become powerful tools for civic engagement. So if it is climate change, quality education, gender equality, or good governance, or just anything you feel like you're passionate about and you talk about it on social media, people that believe in that that have same beliefs as you will surely back you up. So digital literacy equips students with the necessary skills to navigate the digital economy, support education, innovate, and also foster social change.
Okay. Um, Mary, you mentioned the necessary skills that digital literacy can help have students place themselves like on the global stage. What do you think are the necessary skills? What specifically are these skills?
Okay, to thrive in the digital world, we need so many skills. But at the foundational level, digital competency starts with the ability to use a computer or a smartphone at the very least. And then it goes along with basic internet skills like being able to use the internet to browse, search, and send or receive emails. Then it moves to basic information literacy, that is being able to find, evaluate, and use information online. And this is very important for students because you need to know how to differentiate between credible information and then unrealistic ones, like what I mentioned about getting money online without doing any job. So with global communication now, digital literacy, like using emails, video conferencing, and the ability to collaborate or use tools, collaboration tools like Google Workspace or Teams are very essential. Also, you need to know how to social media literacy for personal branding and professional networking. You need data literacy, knowing how to analyze and draw insights from data. Then we can now go to the advanced ones like programming, web developing, AI, cybersecurity, and many more.
Or thank you, Mary. I'm glad that you started with the basics, like knowing how to use a computer. Then we move to all the more complex one, like coding and all of that. So with the rapid advancement of AI, which is artificial intelligence, how do you think our education system can keep up with this emerging tech?
Okay, one thing we need to know that is that AI is a tool and we should learn to use it as that. So AI is a tool to enhance, to help, and not to replace human work. So even AI needs human effort. So you need to use, for example, you want to use ChatGPT, for example, you need to put in the right prompt for you to get the result or the answer you want to get. So the educational system can keep up with AI by using it as a supportive tool. For example, using AI to generate curriculum based on students' needs or using AI to create a personalized learning experience that will focus on the needs of students, helping them to learn at their own pace and according to their strengths and weaknesses. So if the educational system adopts AI, then teachers can be more of a mentor to provide guidance for those students and make learning more efficient and accessible for them. AI can also support students in learning digital skills. So tools like chatbots can guide you through learning anything you want to learn, even coding, and also provide feedback on how you're doing. So I think we should focus on using AI as a mentor or as a tool rather than a replacement because AI will never take the place of creativity. AI can quickly analyze data, but it takes the place of human to interpret it and make ethical decisions.
All right, then, Mary. So a final one. You talked about how um, parents and teachers are also involved in all of this. So let's talk about parents and teachers. How do you think they can collaborate to reinforce digital literacy outside of the classroom?
Okay, first things first, it has to be a cohesive approach. We need to integrate digital literacy into daily life of students. For example, the teacher can assign tasks like creating a simple presentation. I'll be focusing on younger students now. Those are those in primary and secondary schools. So a teacher can assign tasks like creating a simple presentation, while parents can supervise or assist at home. And then parents can also encourage students to use educational apps at home and online resources like typing games or mathematics or English apps. Then teachers can also lead discussions about digital etiquette in class, while the parents can model it at home by practicing safe internet usage and respectful communication online. And through collaboration, basically, parents and teachers can create a consistent environment that supports children digital literacy development across different settings. Also, parents can also register their children for school trainings or out of school trainings at innovation hubs or even tech organizations. So most of these organizations have programs designed for children, and they sometime last year, NITDA, that's Nigerian Information Technology Data and Association, something like that. They organized a tech competition for secondary school students. So everyone is actually playing their parts in making digital literacy a part of what everyone should know. So students, governments, organizations can come together and just create programs. They're already doing that, and we can include it to their curriculum in school. So yes, everyone is playing their parts.
Yes. All right, there. Thank you very much, Mary, for granting us this interview.
Thank you for having me, Mercy.
You're welcome. So now we move to Ghana, where parliamentary elections and presidential election is set to take place on December 7, 2024. We'll be speaking with Mohammed Muntaka Abdulrahman, who is a PhD student at the University of Ibn Khaldun University, and we'll also talk with one other of our guests, and we'll go deep into the economics of Ghana and how Ghanaian people are responding in preparation to this election. Hello, Mr. Mohammed.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me here. And I'd like to say good afternoon to our viewers, and then good afternoon to everybody who's watching us now across the globe.
Good afternoon. You're very welcome. And Mr. Abdullah, you're also very welcome. Mr. Abdullah Lamine is a political scientist and is joining us live from Ghana. He would also be talking to us about preparations towards the election.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. So let's start with... Good afternoon. You're welcome. Let's start with Mr. Mohammed. Do you think that Ghanaians are prepared for this election adequately?
Thank you.
Oh, it seemed we lost Mr. Mohammed there.
Can you hear me now?
Is okay? Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that Ghanaians are adequately preparing for this election. No, people are cleaning their thumbs and waiting for December 7th to go and vote during this election because a lot has happened. And looking at the history of elections in Ghana, almost every political party gets an 8-year term to rule, and after that, there's a change in government. Now, what is unique about this particular election is that the opposition leader, His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, has been the only president who had only one term in office and was changed, and then another party came, and they had 8 years in office. So we have a former vice president who has one term extra to do, and then a current sitting vice president who are contesting head to head. And putting and holding everything constant, this makes the election an interesting one to see as to whether Ghanaians are going to bring the former president back or would like to continue with the current administration to go to a 12th year, which is a new thing that nobody has ever done in Ghana. So Ghanaians are really, really ready for this election. A lot has happened within the last 8 years, and that would determine how Ghanaians are going to vote come December 7th, 2024.
Oh, great. So let's talk about the inflation rather, in Ghana. The Ghanaian inflation rate decreased from 38.1%, that's in September 2023, and then in September 2024, it went down to 21.5%. What does this say about the political and the economic decisions of the present government?
Let me be fair to the two parties that are contesting. When it comes to issues of inflation, since 2009, that is when the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, took power, and then till 2016 there was a change in government. Now, when you look at the inflation figures for all these, from 2009 to 2012, the highest inflation figure was 17.2%, and that was around 2015 when Ghana was in. We were having actually, what's the name? An energy crisis between 2013 and 2016, and that contributed to the inflationary pressures. Now, when you come to this particular government from 2017 to 2024, they had actually the highest inflation was recorded under their regime. That was, I think, in March this year, or March or February this year, they recorded a 51% increase in inflation, and that reduced now. So basically, sometimes when you look at these figures and you try to look at how these two governing parties have managed the economy, one can say that the previous administration did well, taking into consideration their challenges. And at the same time, we look at this government to their challenges, we could say that this government didn't do well because both governments had challenges. The previous government from 2009 to 2016 had about two challenges. One was that they were coming out from the 2008 global financial crisis, and that came with its own challenges to the government. Then in 2012 and 2013, there was an energy crisis in Ghana, which prompted the government to also put in enough money, try to bring in excess power purchases to mitigate the impact it has on inflation, because by then energy became expensive. For that matter, production, the cost of production was shifted to the consumer, so the cost of goods and services were also going up. But just opposing that with this government from 2017 to 2019, this government didn't have any, or this current government didn't have any problems or any external shocks until the COVID-19 came. And for COVID-19, Ghana went under lockdown for just 2 or 3 months. It was not more than, it was not up to a year. So we couldn't have said that that particular inflation or that particular COVID had an impact on the inflation. But however, we need to understand that this particular government within the COVID period had excess money. They had so much money. And if I can take you through the numbers, if you have time, the government had $1 billion from the IMF. Secondly, they have $430 million from World Bank. The African Development Bank gave us $69 million. The Bank of Ghana itself gave the government $1.7 billion. At the same time, the European Union gave the government 86.5 million euros, with 70 million being on health and assistance. So you could see that even though there was a crisis of COVID, the government had enough money to mitigate the crisis so that issues of inflation or issues of economic mismanagement will not be there. But when you go through the Auditor General's report of our country, we could tell you that the government was very, very much wasteful.
All right, there, Mohammed, we will just go on a short commercial break, and
okay.
We'll be right back, and we'll continue the discussion with you and Mr. Abdullah from there.
All right.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to Through Africa. We took a very short break, and we are back to discussing the Ghana elections and the preparations towards it. We're speaking with two of our guests today, one a political scientist and the other a PhD student in Istanbul. So, Mr. Mohammed, we were discussing the political and economic policies of the current government.
Yes,
Can you,
very well.
yes,
Yeah,
can you tell us more about that?
yes. So as I was saying, when you look at what has caused inflation in the country, and just opposing that with the simple economics that we know that when there is too much money chasing fewer goods, then definitely we are going to have prices going up. So the government had enough money in during the COVID-19, and what happened too was that in 2020 we went to an election. So the government had to waste most of the money just to gain power to continue up to today. So putting that one aside, there was also the issue of government borrowing. The government borrowed in excess of it was almost about it was almost at 83% of GDP. Government debt was about 83% of GDP, meaning that we didn't even have enough physical space to be able to do what we want to do. And additionally, the Bank of Ghana did the worst part because they printed more money and pushed more money into the system in the bid of helping the government to salvage itself. And once the central government or the central bank is printing money, it means that the money supply in the system is going to increase. And this is basic economics. When too much money is being supplied in the system, inflation is going to go up to the extent that in Ghana's history, for the first time, the Bank of Ghana is reporting a negative equity. It has never happened. So that should tell you that this government have been on a spending spree and pushing money, and there's no result for it. Now, when you look at the money they had during the COVID and the support that the Bank of Ghana gave, it was a job of the Bank of Ghana to support the government. Otherwise, the country will be in total collapse. So they decided to do their bit to print more money to support the government, and that has resulted to serious inflation to the extent that in March this year, the inflation went as high as 53%, or is it 51.3%? Now, coming back, another point was that the exchange rate also played a key role in pushing inflation up because our currency has depreciated so much. Because as at 2017, when this government came into power, $1 to the cedi was less than was less than 4 cedis. The dollar was exchanging at 3.8. But today, the dollar is 17. And that should tell you that it means that your cost of production is going to go up. When you import something, the prices are going to go up. And everybody in an economic system is looking for profit. So I would push it to the consumer, and that is going to push inflation up. And secondly, we didn't do enough production to be able to shore up our imports, but rather we were importing more, we're having less production for ourselves. So definitely everything is going to be messed up. The government had fantastic policies, I must put. They had a very fantastic policies, like the planting for food and jobs, like the one district, one factory. These were fantastic policies that could, if they had championed it properly, could have produced more food, created more employment, and even with the planting for food and jobs in particular, would have produced more food, and then the food inflation would have gone down. But unfortunately,
Okay, Mohammed, I think you're already going into what could have been done better. Think we would still have time to talk about like what could have been done better and what you think can be done better in the coming years.
okay.
Before we get to that, though, I would like to speak with Mr. Abdullahi. Hello, Mr. Yeah, hello, Mr.
Yeah, hello.
Abdullahi.
Yeah, hello.
So I know that you're currently in Ghana.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about the leading political parties who are vying for this election? According to the Electoral Commission in Ghana, more than 10 political parties are contesting for the election. But we have two major political parties, which are the NDC and the MPP. What are the differences between these political parties?
Thank you very much. Yes, 13 political parties are contesting for this particular elections. But the main leading parties are the NDC and then the MPP. The MPP is the ruling party currently, and then the NDC is the opposition party. One thing about these two political parties is that one party, the NDC, is a socialist party, and then the MPP is a capitalist party, like in the case of America, Democrats and Republicans. So one of the key areas of these political, let's say NDC, hello? Hello?
Oh, it seems we lost Mr. Abdullahi there.
Hello?
Mohammed, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
And I think I can hear Abdullah too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Abdullahi, if you can hear me, we can continue from where you stopped.
Yes. So what I was saying is, if you look at the difference between NDC and MPP, as my brother rightly put it, when MPP is in power, their main objectives is to help the rich to become richer. Then NDC is a socialist party. Their main responsibility is to make sure everything is shared equally among the citizens. So that is the difference between the two. So if you look at this current elections, the NDC is campaigning on 3 thematic areas. One is to create jobs. One is to build more infrastructure. So the infrastructure, they are looking at digital infrastructure. If you take MP and then to also build a sound economy for the people, because the economy of this country currently is, we are in crisis. Yes. If you look at MPP2, you know, per the Constitution of Ghana, the Vice President is the leader of the economic management team. So this current Vice President is the leader of the economic management team of this government. So now he's also campaigning using digitalization to solve economic issues. So this election is a crucial election, as my brother rightly put it, because we have a certain vice president contesting with a former president. And if we are to take the economic indicators currently in this country into consideration, we realize that the current government has failed the people. So this election is purely about economy, economic issues, and then infrastructure. Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you just mentioned the economic issues and the infrastructure problems like going on, because I was just going to ask you, what in your opinion do you think is the biggest challenge for the Electoral Commission or the electoral process in general in Ghana?
Yes, the biggest challenge for the electoral process in Ghana currently is the commission itself, because there are a lot of things that they are doing the citizens are not happy with. If we are to take our register issues into consideration, realize that there are a lot of anomalies in the register which the Electoral Commission is failing to address. So it's raising tensions day in and day out in the country. But I believe going forward, those issues will be able to address before 7th December. Yes.
Okay, let's go back to Mr. Mohammed right now. So I was just going to ask you that with everything we've talked about, with the problems, the economic problems in the country and unemployment on another side, what do you think are economic policies that the next government, whoever it is, needs to put in place?
Okay, thank you very much. But before I proceed to your question, issues related to the EC, the Electoral Commission, according to the latest report from the what's the name, CDD, Center for Democratic and Development Governance, they've said that the Electoral Commission is losing trust from the populace. And when you check the numbers, they've received the lowest ranking ever that an EC, an Electoral Commission, could get. So that should tell you that the Electoral Commission has a lot of credibility issues it has to deal with. Now, coming back to your question for the next government, what policies should the government do? I think who is in Ghana now is thinking about 3 things, or 4 things, if I should say. 1, economic stability. 2, reduction in inflation. 3, unemployment, that is creating jobs. And then 4, for businesses, is the reduction of taxes. And Yesterday, I took the pain to go through the manifestos of these two political parties to see what policies they have or are they promising Ghanaians that when they come into power, they are going to implement. Yes, economy is key, and the NDC has about 7 key policies, and one of the main one they are championing is the 24-hour economy, trying to ensure that in order to create jobs, we are certain sectors or private sectors who are interested in doing a 24-hour economy will be having some incentives from the government to be able to do so. And it is their main pillar for their campaign that once you vote us into power, they are going to have a system where one job, 3 people are going to do it. And they've mentioned the kind of infrastructure that they are going to do alongside to support this particular policy. And I went through that of the MPP, and I could see that one of the main things they were focusing on was that they were going to look at the gold for oil policy is one of the things that is the macroeconomic things. And in terms of employment, they were looking at the youth innovation and in the digitalization, trying to give them some certain skills. But all in all, if you put all their policies together, and somebody who is sitting afar and looking at the policies and the reliability of those policies, you could see that the National Democratic Congress's policies are more measurable and are actionable as compared to that of the MPP, because the NDC gives timelines and gives specific things that they are going to do in terms of enhancing or going to improve the economy. But for Ghanaians, all that we are saying is reduce the taxes, reduce inflation, give us jobs. That is what we want. Give us jobs and give us a good environment for private sector to flourish. And you can see that almost all of the political parties are giving almost similar, similar policies, just that there are some key differences. For example, the NDC said they are going to create a women's bank that are going to be purely to give women or market women certain amount of money to do businesses. At the same time, the LPP is also promising the same. The NDC is saying it's going to create 1 million jobs for young people in the digital economy. NPP is also saying they're going to create digital skills jobs. The NDC is saying they are going to stabilize the currency. NPP is saying so. The only thing different is that one is saying that I'm going to make sure that I put good security systems, good roads to enhance a 24-hour economy. And the other one is saying that, okay, for me, I'm interested in trying to do digitalization. But one key thing, a fundamental thing is that you can't jump the gun. If you don't have the infrastructure to support the digitalization, doing that digitalization, excuse me to say, will not yield the result that we want. And it's good to have digitalization moving in line with economic growth. But to jump to say that you are going to digitalize the economy without the necessary infrastructure to support it, it's a flawed argument in the first place.
All right, Mr. Mohammed, when we're still talking about digitalization, sorry to cut you there. When we're still talking about digitalization, I would like us to talk about social media and how it has impacted the campaigns and the preparations towards this election. And how do you think authorities are actually managing this misinformation and disinformation from spreading across the country?
Yes, thank you very much. I've been an active Twitter user in particular, and I was part of one of the few groups initially when the Fix the Country movement started that we were pushing, and we were having Twitter spaces and all that. I was really active on that particular platform. Social media has come to stay in Ghanaian politics, and anybody who says that social media is not going to influence the election is really shooting himself in the foot, because the current statistics shows that Ghana is, I think, one of the highest Twitter users in Africa. We have about 1.3 million people on Twitter, and that alone, if you're able to even capture half of these people to vote for you in itself, will tell you that indeed you are likely to win the election. And secondly, too, is that when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, it is unfortunate that both political parties are corporate, but the government is even worse, because the Ministry of Communication or the Ministry of Information was some time back pushing the agenda not to fight misinformation, and yet Some of us who use Twitter, we know people who are being paid by the government to do misinformation, and we know them.
Okay.
Not that we know them, we
Let
know
me.
them. They are pushing misinformation. So, to just 30 seconds to conclude, I think that social media is going to play a key role, and anybody who undermines that is undermining it at his own peril.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. I would like Mr. Abdullahi to also talk to us about what do you think are the response of the youth? We know that the youth is majorly, they are very important in this election, and they would determine, if not the largest number of votes. What do you think are the response, or is the response to the party's preparations for this election?
Yeah, thank you very much. Ghana has one of the youthful population, and taking this election into consideration, we realize that most of the campaign manifesto designed or drafted by the political parties are pro-poor youth policies. Like in the case of 24-hour economy, the youth are going to benefit from it. Then the Don Dramani Mahama is also, he said he's also going to launch what he called the National Apprenticeship Program, meant for those who were not able to go to school. Then the MPP, John Mahama, is also talking about training 1 million youth in coding. MPP is also campaigning on that same message. So this year's election is, let's say, a youth election. So if you look at the kind of rallies these youth are attending, the kind of youthful activities happening in Ghana, you could just conclude that the youths are much interested in this election more than any other elections in Ghana, and they are going to determine the winner of this particular election. John Mahama has stated that within 120 days in office, he will establish what you call the Youth Development Ministry, and that ministry is going to oversee the development of the youth. MPP is also preaching the same thing. There are certain policies in the various tertiary, like the teacher training colleges. There is this exam we write, they call it licentiate exams. So Mahama has promised to cancel it. I heard yesterday the leader of the ruling government, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has also promised to also cancel that Lance's exams, which is badly affecting the students. So I can say that this election, the youths are taking this election seriously than any other election in this country. Yes.
All right, then, Mr. Abdullahi and Mr. Mohammed, it has been a great time discussing the Ghana elections and preparations towards it with you. And we would just have to end the program here because of our time. I hope that we'll be able to speak to you another time.
I'll be very happy to have this conversation again, because I had a lot of things to say, and
thank you.
Time is not on our side, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on the program. And with that, we've come to the end of today's live show on Through Africa. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamgbala. If you would like to send us questions or suggestions on the program, kindly do so through our number, which will be on the screen. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.